Hi, I'm going to ask Jeff Descovich to come up and share a few words with us and speak about his foundation.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jeff Descovich, and I was exonerated through DNA evidence after spending 16 years in prison, wrongfully convicted, right here in White Plains, in this very courtroom behind me. My life is dedicated to fighting wrongful conviction and criminal justice reform. This past May, not the one that went by, but in 2019, I graduated law school here in White Plains. I started the Jeffrey Descovich Foundation for Justice, and we've been able to get 7 people home in 7 years that were wrongfully imprisoned. And we were able to help pass laws leading to improved identification procedures, videotaping interrogation, DNA data bank expansion. Working in the coalition group, It Could Happen to You, we were able to pass 3 additional laws, an oversight board for prosecutors in New York. And we gathered together with other organizations and advocates, and we helped to pass a law pertaining to discovery reform, meaning sharing information between the prosecution and the defense, that both sides can have access to the evidence that has the best chance of leading to a fair outcome.
Right.
Lastly, I'm also with Restorative Justice International, which focuses on making crime victims, offenders, whole back to the point that they can be, rather than just strictly a punitive model. So I have a few things quickly to say. Firstly, wrongful conviction and other criminal justice issues which I'm going to mention, we need to keep all of these things in focus while we are correctly focused on unjustifiable deadly police force and police brutality. We can't forget about the other issues. An African American defendant is 5 times more likely than a white defendant to be wrongfully convicted of murder.
Oh, yeah.
It is not only police violence when police engage in unjustifiable deadly police force and police brutality, but it is police violence when they coerce a false confession out of a suspect, which is what happened to me. It is police violence when they come to court and they do what's called test the lying. It is police violence when they frame people, when they plant evidence, as recently came to light in Mount Vernon. It is police violence when they withhold evidence of innocence. And while we're focusing on reforming the criminal justice system, let's not forget about the prosecutors. It's the prosecutors that often prosecute victims of police brutality for assault that the cops have falsely charged in order to help them get away with the crimes that they committed. It's the prosecutors that can seemingly push the envelope and convict anything and everything, indict everything to the point that they have that saying, you can indict a ham sandwich, but suddenly they're inept. Suddenly they're unable to prosecute if it comes to indicting a police officer, if it comes to getting a murder conviction of a police officer, if it comes to prosecuting a police officer engaging in brutality. It's the it's the prosecutor who uses evidence, even if it's obtained in violation of our constitutional rights. It's the prosecutor that is using the coerced false confessions. It's the prosecutors that are using identification evidence after using lineup procedures that are unfair. It's the prosecutors that are using informants whose stories keep changing and changing and changing, putting them on the stand, allowing people to lie and not correcting them, sometimes threatening the witnesses to get them to lie. So let's not forget the prosecutors, is what my point is. In terms of reform, we need to repass that oversight board for prosecutors, the Commission on Prosecutor Conduct. When the District Attorneys Association sued and came to court to try to invalidate the law, the judge rejected all of their arguments, but found a problem with the appellate procedure within that. So we're in the process of repassing that. We need to express to our elected officials, we insist that the Commission on Prosecutor Conduct be repassed. We need to insist that the exceptions that were made when New York State passed that law mandating videotaping of interrogations, for some reason, they made an exception when it came to second-degree murder. They made an exception when it comes to drug cases. They made an exception when it comes to sex offenses. So my rhetorical question is, well, in which type of those cases would it be okay to have a wrongful conviction caused by a coerced false confession? Because that's what the purpose of videotaping is, to prevent. So I guess in some of those crimes it's okay. You know what? It's not okay in any situation. So we need that legislation passed. Let's remember mass incarceration. Let's remember parole reform. Let's remember prison reform. Let's remember college education for prisoners. Let's remember prisoner reentry. Let's also remember solitary confinement. Can we please remember ban the box, where people are being discriminated against for jobs that they're otherwise qualified for, but are banned because they have a record. The disturbing practice when educational institutions are barring some people from getting education because they have a record. Let's remember all those things. And in terms of actionable items, we need to register to vote. We need to vote. Let's vote out everybody that's against criminal justice reform. How about that?
Hey.
Let's volunteer for nonprofit organizations. Let's continue to attend events like this here in White Plains, across Westchester, across New York, across the country. Let's show movies and documentaries. You know, let's speak on events. Let's learn more about the topics and share that information. Let some of us think about careers in this field. And if it's not your career, then whatever it is you do for a living, you know, it's not free to do this work. It costs money to do this work. So at whatever level, however a minor level it is financially, think about contributing that too. Sign a petition when one's come around. Contact your elected officials. You have the right to meet with them. It's not limited to if you're rich or you're some big corporation or some political action committee. No, an individual citizen can meet with them. We can email them. We can phone bank. All these, we can teach. You can form student groups if you're in high school. You can form student groups if you're in college. You can have just regular, you're past that different stage of life, but you have other community groups. There's lots, and these are just the things off the top of my head. You can podcast, you can blog, you can write, you can do whatever other idea comes to you. These are just the things that come to me, but there is a way to be involved. It doesn't end here. It needs to continue on. And while it's great to have energy and harness that, remember, this is a marathon, not a sprint. So pace yourself. Be there for the long haul. To do all these changes, they're all possible, but it's going to be a marathon. We need to continue. Stay engaged. Stay engaged. Thank you very much.
All right.